I've lived in Phoenix now for 12 years, and I can say honestly, it's changed so much in many good ways, and in some ways that concern me. It's changing really fast. The goal that you see here on the right for a resilient food system is not just for food, it extends to quality of life and community health. Phoenix and Arizona face pressures from urbanization, climate change, political and economic shifts, and population growth. Today's actions impact tomorrow's quality of life and the years after. Phoenix, in my opinion, is actively striving to be an agriculture and innovation hub, as demonstrated by the Arizona Fresh infrastructure project. In my opinion, the future farming is hydroponics, vertical gardens, aquaponics, indoor farming, crop-specific cultivars, and more. What does climate change mean? I will tell you, for me in the future, it means that we preserve tradition, the good elements that make a high quality of life and joy, and adopt to the future so that Phoenix and Arizona can continue to have a productive food culture and production system. The next few slides indicate City of Phoenix recommendations to achieve the goal of a resilient food system, focusing on sustainable food systems and water use. According to the Central Arizona Land Trust, between the years 2012 and 2017, the number of farms statewide fell by 5%, but in Maricopa County, the decline was much higher at 24%. We've lost 200 acres or more of prime farmland within the last year or two. Many people are familiar with the concept, not in my backyard, sometimes known in short as NIMBYism. I'm experiencing and observing a trend that is similar to NIMBYism, but quite different in that it focuses on the developer's perspective. Personally, I'm pro-development. I believe that cities should pursue and will benefit from smart growth using plans that are developed by urban planners, political activists, community members, elected officials, industry, and more. I feel that we have those plans for a reason. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into developing those, and they hold a great degree of value and should be respected. Some people make the decisions to invest in a certain area based on looking at those plans and having a sense of what is in the future for those areas. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing is a approach where there's an unwritten understanding that development and rezoning are a right. The key part in that is rezoning is a right. Even though that might not be stated, in some cases it might be denied, what I'm seeing is the vast majority of proposals are for higher density, whether it's residential or commercial, and there's a prevailing theme of those approvals being accepted, even when there's strong community opposition, even when the development process consists of all the checks and balances of going into communities, asking for their input. I'm seeing a troubling trend of very high levels of rezoning where the majority is rezoning. So based on NIMBYism, I thought of, on my way driving here today, NIMBYism. Maybe you're hearing that here first for the first time. I'm not really sure. NIMBYism is my acronym for not in my development yet, which basically taps into the view that developers feel if they were approved for rezoning here at this level, it's only fair that we're allowed to get approved when we want to do this here. We'll go through the checks and balances. We'll ask the community. As a community member who's been in some of those meetings, my impression has been they're asking, but they're not really listening. And the community is very clearly has certain baseline requirements. And the developer's response is, well, they won't work with us. They're not cooperating. So by the time a proposal goes through all the checks and balances, the goalposts have been changed. The prevailing view is if we have enough fight in us, enough lawyers, we can make the case based on precedent. We will also be able to rezone in this area too. That's smart and sensible sometimes. Not every development should stay within the plan that the city comes up with. But when you see drip, 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 and I'm not talking about water drips and irrigation here, I'm talking about this neighborhood here is rezoned, this commercial business here is rezoned, higher density, higher density, higher density. Overall, The impact of that, I don't think anyone can argue, is a contribution towards greenhouse gas emission, which is counterproductive for a lot of what I'm talking about here. So regarding land use, I live in an area that is traditionally agricultural and has a great feel and quality of life. We should amend zoning law to allow certain types of urban agriculture, such as hydroponics, indoor farming, vertical agriculture, and more, and maintain those as best uses for land. We should also develop land trusts for which cities buy land to preserve for best use as agri-tainment and food production. And I won't mention names of businesses here. I don't think I'm allowed or should do that. I love businesses that grow their own food, where you can go for an afternoon, have farmers market day, bring your kids, you walk, you learn. Those are wonderful days to spend in Arizona. I also encourage the incorporation of healthy food access into land use and really recognize and act upon areas that are officially recognized as food deserts. There are many. I advocate that we develop new financial resources for food production and infrastructure. Arizona Fresh is an example of that. Ideally, we should incorporate food production, processing, and distribution into future economic development plans and establish a local food buying preference in city future contracts. I think there's a great deal of benefit to convene local farmers with city staff, elected officials, and other stakeholders to build trust and understanding. I advocate that we develop policies and actions that plan for future shocks related to climate change, hazards, population growth, etc. I also feel that it's important, and this isn't only because I work someone in this field, that we actually create full-time administrative jobs that are valued to support food systems, jobs that are focused on administration, coordination, and innovation. There's a lack of participation in agriculture workforce development that's really adjusting to the imminent retirements on the horizon. People interested in urban farming or even adding a greenhouse to their home face a challenging permit process. Ideally, from the point of view of education and training, we should try to buy community food, support the businesses that grow local. No food, no farm. No farm, no food. We should infuse curriculum into education. We can take an opportunity to teach about agriculture, food production, the ecosystem, by including that content in a biology lesson, per se, or a social studies lesson. I'll speak to the last topic of education training using Arizona Fresh, the infrastructure project, as an example. Arizona Fresh is a multi-phase City of Phoenix infrastructure project for Del Rio development. According to the website, the goal is to create a national leading source of innovation and education in the production and distribution of food. The location is on the south side of Salt River, between 7th Street and 16th Street, less than a 10-minute drive from my home near South Mountain. Main elements are a wholesale production distribution center, retail food market, community park, education and resource facilities, and some redevelopment of the actual river area as a riparian area. The project is undergoing environmental studies, and some permits have been requested from the City of Phoenix. In my opinion, Arizona Fresh is a great example of a means to celebrate the agricultural heritage of the valley in a fresh and modern way. Personally, I would love to see a concept such as a food donation system. We know that a lot of food is wasted, food that could potentially be donated in a way where the chain of custody is maintained, risk mitigation is done. I personally would like to see us tackle that to reduce food waste and bring food to people who would benefit from it. And I also would like to see a concept such as a ugly food cafe, which I wouldn't call it that. Basically a concept where food that is appealing and healthy and in good shape, but not perfect for Costco or Whole Foods or Fry's or wherever food is purchased, could be used, not thrown away, in food service operation that celebrates that the food is still edible and was repurposed for consumption in a fun, entertaining venue. I imagine art galleries and live music and date nights and whatever, a lot of opportunity. I'll summarize some of the elements in the PHXWaterSmart initiative. The Colorado River is in decline. It's experiencing right now the driest conditions it's seen for over 1,200 years. Lake Mead is only at 31% capacity and currently has only enough storage in it to last a year for 3 lower basin states. Lake Powell is at 24% capacity. It may be about 30 feet from dead pool conditions. Dead pool is a dire situation in which water may not physically be able to be moved out of a reservoir based on constraints in the infrastructure. The good news is that the city's been preparing for drought for decades. I'll describe some of the actions that Water Services is taking in response. In 1990, the city developed the first drought preparedness plan. The state of Arizona requires the department to maintain a plan. This plan was reaffirmed in 2021, and it consists of 4 stages ranging from water alert to water crisis. This slide identifies some of the events that help the city to prepare for prolonged drought conditions due to over-allocation and climate change. A Stage 1 alert was declared in June 2022. It's a signal to customers that we face challenges with the Colorado River. Under Stage 1, the city will increase public education, water conservation efforts, and information programs to help customers impacted and give them an understanding of the situation and the need to voluntarily conserve. One might ask, what does Stage 1 really mean for customers? During the early stages of a stressed water supply, the city will ask customers to voluntarily evaluate and reduce their water use in ways that will minimally impact their lifestyles. There are no mandatory reductions at this stage. I'll summarize some examples of progress. The City of Phoenix has identified examples of progress. The program has converted cooling towers and xeriscape landscaping at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. Some city parks installed smart controllers that keep sprinklers from turning on when it rains. City Hall has been undergoing a plumbing and sewer retrofit remedy to address low-efficiency appliances. The city's also reducing unaccounted water losses that come from water that leaves the plants but doesn't actually get delivered to the endpoint. Somewhere in that pipeline, it doesn't get accounted for. It evaporates or disappears. Based on this program, losses went down to 8.5% from 10% in prior years. Even though 1.5% sounds like a relatively small amount, when you look at the amount of water, that actually is a big accomplishment. Many don't know how much water they actually need to apply to their yards. The water budget calculator removes the guesswork. It enables the user to put in some basic numbers about a yard, and it tells one exactly how much water is needed to apply every single month. Then this information is really helpful to plan water use, whether it's with a hose or some type of irrigation controller. This information is hosted in English and Spanish. The city provides water education from the cloud, not a rain cloud, a digital cloud. The education resources are readily available in a digital format. Historically, education has been done through physical paper, which can be very challenging and tedious. Moving this information so that it's digitized and in a cloud is great. It's a valuable resource, and it also is available in English and Spanish. Phase 1 focuses on expanding existing programs that work pretty well. Phase 2 focuses on expansion of newer programs that have started to take hold. A good example of Phase 2 is the Smart Irrigation Controller Subsidy. This is a program that Salt River Project has operated for a couple of years. It helps connect people and customers to irrigation controllers so that irrigation controllers don't work when it rains. Even though it doesn't seem like it rains a whole lot here in Phoenix, there actually is a fairly high amount of rain that occurs when it's aggregated over all the households in 1 year. The city plans to expand the HOA Homeowners Association Efficiency Checkup Program. Homeowners associations are some of the biggest water users, and they can be a point of centralized decision-making where staff can efficiently reach out and make big changes in overall water use. These focus on making sure the HOAs match their water budgets by comparing the water budget to the actual use that's happening. By doing this, one can identify leaks or where miswatering is happening. The city's working to develop a program that will recognize communities that participate and those that build civic pride from doing so. Consumers often want to do the right thing and don't know quite how to do so. A quick and simple solution is the free zero-escape plans for residential customers. Any customer can go and download a quick list of materials to bring to the big box store or gardener, local nursery, so they can implement these plans. The city is partnering with other sustainable cities in a network within ASU and beyond to develop other municipalities and across the state for higher use of this program. Door hangers are a simple intervention whereby any City of Phoenix employee who's going about their day and observes water misuse can place a door hanger on the sign to alert the customer that maybe they're misusing water. These are available in English and Spanish. For example, users are encouraged to water early in the morning, and if an employee sees water that's spraying on the sidewalk or from a broken valve really early in the morning, the homeowner might not know that it's leaking, and they could be alerted by a simple door hanger. Next, I'll address Plan 3 phasing. These are programs that take longer for benefits to accrue, but they're good investments for us to make now so that we can reap many benefits in the future. Phoenix has a toilet retrofit program, which has covered 100% of the cost, typically in low-income communities. The program has the potential to provide funding for a non-government organization to go out and do this kind of work while they're already in a home doing other types of home repairs. The rebate will provide about $75 per customer for anybody at any income level. The city is currently determining whether the best method to deliver the rebate is a bill credit or a direct check. I hope it's a check. Youth education is highly impactful, but it can take a long time for those benefits to be visible. So far in 2022, the city had 6 in-person water festivals and 1 virtual event. A focus of education is to remove the barriers for teaching water conservation in the classroom. This consists of aligning existing water conservation materials with the state standards. When a teacher picks up the materials, they know what standard they're teaching to, and they explain that easily to their administration. Updating building codes consists of collaboration with planning and development departments. It's very important to ensure that the lessons learned are passed along in new code review. An example of that would be the cooling towers that I mentioned a moment ago. As it stands right now, in summary, Phoenix is on track. Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 is in progress. Phase 3 is just beginning. To put that into perspective and context, when complete, these programs annually will save enough water to fill 10,000 swimming pools or more. I'll summarize the heat mitigation response. Phoenix Office of Heat Response and Mitigation, known in short as ORM or Heat Ready Phoenix, is leading the efforts in our hottest, largest city in the United States to fight urban heat. It's hard to deny that it's not a growing hazard. ORM focuses on heat response, which means helping people cope with hot weather, and heat mitigation, which means cooling the city and making it more comfortable for everyone. Year-round, ORM coordinates programs and policies to help lower temperatures. It also tracks trends, collects data, and collaborates with other organizations to share ideas and solutions when it comes to dealing with heat. I've consulted with that office. A lot of the resources I'm sharing here today are from that office. I'm a firm believer it's a huge, great step in the right direction. The next slide will highlight some of the important programs. Cool Callers is a program that consists of volunteers calling and checking in on people during extreme heat. Heat Relief Supplies is a program in which local nonprofit and charitable organizations that conduct heat relief in Maricopa County can request free supplies. Some examples of supplies for individuals are misters, hats, sunscreen. Examples of organizational supplies are coolers, insulated backpacks, wagons, and more. The next few slides show citations used in my session. If you're still here and listening, thank you. I greatly appreciate you being here. Hopefully you're finding some actionable content. You're free to look and evaluate the citations. The sources in the session are from government reports, summaries, peer-reviewed journals, some popular press reporting, and City Phoenix guide and documents. The photos used are used with permission according to fair use standards, and some of my friends and neighbors have provided some of those of wildlife in the South Mountain area. I will conclude where I started. What does climate change mean? We live in a hot place that will only get hotter than ever before, and probably at a pace that necessitates action sooner than later. I view climate change as a winnable battle. I'm going to ask a question, not expecting an answer, but a question that some might find bold or even a nuisance. Why are we waiting to address climate change? If not now, then when? Disruptive hazards are likely to increase in severity and frequency. I know I'm seeing that in the types of reports that I look at, and also my own experience living in Arizona. Climate change necessitates adaptive responses that incorporate short-term and long-term strategies that are proactive, not reactive. Now is the time to use with full force the many tools and resources available to us. One can aspire and dream. I truly aspire that individuals and stakeholders, both big and small, will voluntarily do their part in a balanced way so the populations can enjoy high quality of life. We can live in an economic world where development is valued and benefits all, and that we have sustainable growth today so that we can enjoy tomorrow and the day after. Thank you all for being here. I truly appreciate your time, and let's do this.